Welcome to a beginner's guide to Oriental Herbal Nutrient, or OHN. In this video, we're going to talk about OHN's role in the Korean natural farming sphere of inputs, how it works, what it's supposed to do, and of course, how to make it. OHN is one of the more time-consuming KNF inputs to make, especially compared to things like fermented plant juice or FPJ, lactic acid bacteria, LAB. There are quite a few steps to be followed, and of course the originators of these techniques are very particular about following the steps as precisely as possible. So that's what I'll be trying to do in this video. If you're unfamiliar with Korean natural farming, or KNF, this refers to adapted and modernized systems of agriculture that were originally used by the OG farmers. Cho Han-kyu, or Master Cho, as he's known in KNF circles, did a ton of observational research of Japanese farmers in the 1950s and 60s. And when he returned to Korea, he combined traditional Korean farming techniques with what he had learned from his Japanese teachers. What resulted were the 9 KNF inputs, which, when combined in specific ways, formed powerful means of soil restoration and plant cultivation. As far as OHN's role within the 9 inputs, Master Cho refers to it as the plant medicine. Because of its high alcohol content, OHN has been observed as increasing the efficacy and functionality of the other amendments, which is why it's almost always used in conjunction with the others. So what is OHN? Well, OHN refers to the combination of 5 different herbal tinctures, specifically garlic, ginger, licorice root, cinnamon root, and angelica root. A tincture, if you aren't familiar, is a nutrient extraction that creates a highly potent and water-soluble form of whatever you're extracting. High percentage alcohol is used to extract these compounds over a period of time, at least several weeks and up to 3 months. For OHN, the extractions of garlic, ginger, licorice, cinnamon, and angelica bring immune support to the plant and the soil. The reason that these 5 substances are used to make OHN is because of the unique compounds present in each of them. These are traditional herbs used throughout Eastern medicine, and while there's been little formal research conducted on the efficacy of OHN in boosting plant immunity against pathogens and other ailments, anecdotal evidence abounds. OHN draws on centuries of traditional medicinal wisdom. That being said, we can identify some likely reasons why these particular plants are helpful in playing this role in natural farming. I'm going to get a little bit technical in this next section, so if this does not interest you, please feel free to skip to how to make and use OHN. But because I'm sure that many of you are wondering why it may work, specifically, here are some potential reasons why our plants and soil microbes may benefit from the unique nutrients found in these 5 ingredients. So buckle up, because this is about to get exciting. First, garlic. Garlic contains a compound called allicin. When garlic is crushed, allicin rapidly decomposes into other sulfuric compounds like ajoenine and diallyl sulfides. These compounds exhibit antimicrobial, antioxidant, and anti-inflammatory properties by modulating immune cell activity and cytokine production. Garlic also contains a compound referred to as S-allylcysteine, or SAC. Found in aged garlic extract, SAC is water-soluble and has potent antioxidant properties. It scavenges reactive oxygen species and reduces oxidative stress, protecting cells from damage. In ginger, we can observe the compounds gingerol and shogaol. These phenolic compounds possess strong antioxidant, anti-inflammatory effects. They inhibit the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines and enhance the activity of antioxidant enzymes, reducing oxidative stress and inflammation. In angelica root, coumarins and flavonoids are present. These are known for their antimicrobial and antioxidant activities. They also help in scavenging free radicals, thereby enhancing the plant's defense mechanisms against pathogens. For licorice, we have a compound called glycyrrhizin, and glycyrrhizin exhibits antiviral and anti-inflammatory properties by modulating immune responses. It has been shown to reduce inflammation by inhibiting the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines. And finally, cinnamon. In cinnamon, we find cinnamaldehyde and eugenol. These compounds have antifungal and antibacterial properties. They disrupt microbial cell membranes, inhibiting pathogen growth and enhancing plant resistance to disease. If you still have questions about why these specific compounds are going to be helpful for your plants, I'd say you should just make the input and try it out. We will have future videos observing the effects that we've seen from applying OHN to our plants and soil, but the best way to learn about this stuff is to actually just do it. Which brings us to how to make OHN. Now this is a process with many steps involved, and so I've created a printable PDF reference sheet for all of the ingredients and steps required to make OHN. I found this helpful when I was making mine, just to be able to keep track of everything. So please download that if it would be of help to you. Also, if you're finding this video helpful so far, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any more helpful gardening and fermentation videos that we come out with in the future. Okay, let's make OHN. Hey guys, today we are going over one of the most challenging long-term Korean natural farming amendments, OHN, which stands for Oriental Herbal Nutrient. This is an extract, sort of a tincture of some really powerful herb, as you may have guessed. The herbs that we're using are fresh garlic, fresh ginger root, dried licorice root, dried cinnamon bark, and dried angelica root. From these 5 herbs, we are going to basically accumulate these tinctures that you combine into what then makes up OHN, Oriental Herbal Nutrient. And this is used as a powerful Korean natural farming input. It goes in a lot of the recipes. It's basically used to fight off plant disease and just bring overall health to the plant. I gotta believe that it is really, really worth making, because this is a tricky one to make. It takes a long time, approximately 3 months. So we're gonna go on a journey together, and it all starts right here. Before we get started, I actually wanted to just go over what I think is all of the ingredients and supplies that you will need, because sometimes in my research it has been unclear what exactly all you need. So here we go. I already mentioned the herbs that we're going to be doing, the garlic, ginger, licorice, cinnamon, angelica. You're also going to need brown sugar, preferably organic. I got this from Costco. You're going to want a lot of it. To be honest, I don't know the exact amount that you'll need. I can tell you as I go, but you'll want a lot of brown sugar. You also will want a lot of vodka, which I also recommend getting at Costco if you have access to one nearby you. Otherwise, just buy some cheap stuff. This was like 23 bucks for a half a gallon, and I bought 2 of them, and then I redid my math, and I'm actually going to need a 3rd one. So 1.5 gallons of vodka for this amount that I'm making. And this is considered a small amount. This will last, hopefully for me, a long time. This will hopefully last like 3 years. So a lot of vodka. You also need beer, and we're going to use that actually starting today. That is day 1, and then you're done using the beer. As far as supplies, you will need a scale. I believe this is a required thing that you'll need, is a scale, because we're doing some very exact measurements, and you just want to be able to weigh them out and get them exact. There you go. I've got this electric scale. You're also going to need an assortment of containers. Now, I recommend glass because they're not going to leach chemicals, leach plastic into your Oriental Herbal Nutrient. When you extract things with hard alcohol, there's more likely that you'll actually incorporate those plastics. So I'm using all glass containers. You will need lids for these as well. I'll tell you what you're actually specifically going to need. So each one of these small jars will contain 1 of each herb plus an additional angelica root. So I've got 6 of these jars. You will need 6 jars of the exact same size. These are 16-ounce jars, 2 cups. In addition to these jars, you will need 6 jars that are double the size. Now, basically what you need to know as you start off is that however large your extraction vessel is, you will end up with twice that much extract in the end. We're extracting 16 ounces, a 16-ounce jar full. I will need a 32-ounce jar full equivalent that I'm going to be doing the extract back and forth with. 6 jars of one size, 6 jars of another one that is twice the size. So 16-ounce jar, 32-ounce jar. Okay, hopefully that's clear. Step 1 is pretty simple. This takes 1 day to do. We are just going to rehydrate our dried herbs. So we're not even using the garlic and ginger. We're not using the brown sugar or the vodka. We're just using the angelica root, cinnamon bark, and licorice root, and the beer. So I'm gonna take 4 of my jars. So how you start by filling these is you wanna fill them just 1/10 of the way full. It would definitely help if you had jars with like measurements on them. I don't have enough jars that are the exact same jar with the measurements on them. So I'm just using this. And I just took a little Sharpie and I marked out, I just did approximate measurements where the 1/10 of a jar measurement is. And then you'll also want to know where the halfway mark is. Now really what matters is that you actually just fill every single jar to the exact same point. The reason it's important that you get everything extremely equal because it takes all 6 extracts combined to make in equal parts to make Oriental herbal nutrient. So if you have too little of some of them, you won't be able to make, you'll have extra of other ones, and those are basically useless. You just want to have the exact same amount. I'm going to start my cinnamon bark. We'll have links to all of these in the description. I got the cinnamon bark and the angelica root off of azurestandard.com. Really recommend that website. If you don't have access to that, we'll have links in the description for Amazon. Okay, here's my cinnamon bark. Smells phenomenal. I've got my licorice root. I'm using organic ingredients. It has an interesting smell. It doesn't really smell like licorice exactly. Okay, so I'm just going to get down and try and see if I can get this about equal with the licorice, with the cinnamon. Okay, that looks pretty good. Finally, I've got my angelica root. And for this one, just to say it over and over again, you want 2 of them. 2, the exact same, is 2 parts angelica root. Okay, looks pretty good. There are my 4 dried herbs. Now what we're gonna do is crack open the brewski. The reason that you're using beer is because you want a low alcohol beverage to hydrate these. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna fill them halfway. So I have my little halfway mark for this jar. I'm gonna make sure that these are all exactly even. And of course it's gonna foam. While we wait for that, I'm actually gonna grab my stirring stick. That is the last thing you need. All right, guys, those have finally settled down for the most part. I feel pretty good with where those are at. And here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a paper towel and I'm actually gonna split these in 2. We're gonna cover this with a rubber band for all of these, and we're just gonna let these sit for 24 hours. 1 day to rehydrate. The whole point of this step is to basically try and get the roots back to the stage as though we were just pulling them out of the ground for the first time, so they're fresh, like the garlic and ginger. This needs to be a breathable cover. Paper towel is pretty easy to source. That's what I'm using. Definitely don't want bugs getting in here or anything for that matter. Just put these where they won't be disturbed. So to fill our 4 16-ounce jars, we used about 1.5 pints. I can't really quite see in there, but I'm guessing it was 1.5 pints of beer. If any of this is unclear, we'll have a recipe card in the description box. Just hit the link and you can get that. All right, and we'll be back. Okay guys, here we are 24 hours later. Our dry herbs have all rehydrated, and now we're ready to get into the fermentation stage. So what we're gonna do is we'll take our digital scale. I'm gonna take one of these jars and tare just so that I get the approximate weight. So this jar is 260 grams, 259 grams. And the reason that matters is because we want to know the exact weight of the material inside of each one of these jars. This one is the Angelica root. Actually, really should mention this. You definitely want to label. There's a crazy thought. I did not label. I can definitely smell it. This is Angelica root, and then here's the cinnamon and the licorice. Going forward past this, I'm just gonna label them just to be super sure. What we're gonna do is take the jar with all of these, and we're gonna calculate the amount that the liquid and the roots weigh, and then we're gonna add equal parts brown sugar to that. After tearing with the jar, we have 224 grams of Angelica root plus beer. So we're gonna add 224 grams of brown sugar. So this is gonna be, we're gonna start here with 224 grams. That's just kind of a starting place benchmark. What we actually want is to fill this jar 2/3 full. Equal parts by weight with brown sugar should kind of get us in the ballpark there. I think I might call that good actually. And then I'm just gonna take my really official stirring stick right here, and I'm gonna give this a twirl. We stopped at 164. So I'm gonna compare it at this point to the height, because you want these to be pretty equal. So I'm gonna say that's equal. I'm gonna mix it up. Now I'm just gonna compare this and get these all equal levels. That's the most important part. Add a whirl. Last one, cinnamon. Oh my goodness, that smells really nice. Oh, in we go. Okie doke. Stir it. The reason I'm not using the same stick to stir all of them is just in case cross-contamination matters. Our dry ingredients are ready. Our dry ingredients, now wet ingredients, are ready to go. Now, here comes the fun part. We're gonna do our garlic and ginger, and these are our fresh ingredients, wet ingredients. This one does matter how much brown sugar you add. You definitely want to add equal parts by weight, and it's a little, from what I can tell, it's a little finicky. You have to kind of approximate how much you think is going to fit in this jar combined with brown sugar that will get it to 2/3. And so what we're going to do, I'll just show you. I've got this cutting board here because I'm going to smash the garlic and the ginger up separately, and then I'll put it in this bowl. Don't have to peel the garlic. I'm gonna take my official basher, just kind of smash this garlic up. See what that gives us. Thinking we'll want more garlic. That's 82 grams. Yeah, I'll just do a little bit more. 82 grams. That's pretty pulverized and recognizable. Okay, we're gonna do one more, just in case. It has only 57 grams. 210, all right. That way, that is 210 grams of garlic zeroed out. I'm gonna add in 210 grams of brown sugar. So now at this point, we've got equal parts garlic and brown sugar. I'm gonna mix it up really thoroughly by hand. The reason that we pulverized the garlic was to just increase the surface area so that it can all basically ferment and start to break down. So I'm just gonna get this really nicely coated. If you've made the other Korean natural farming input fermented plant juice, this is very similar. And yeah, it seems like we're probably gonna have more than we need, which is totally all right. Probably will have more than we need for this jar. So I'll go ahead and just make some garlic fermented plant juice with the rest. Feel pretty good about that. Put this in the jar. I'm gonna fill this up higher than 2/3 because it's gonna settle. There's like little air pockets in there right now. It's definitely gonna settle down. And after a week of fermenting, I can always just remove whatever I don't need at that point. I can remove it to make it equal with these. So actually I might just add in all of this garlic and I'll kind of smash it down. Take my tamper basher. There we go. I'm gonna clean all this up and then we'll come back and we'll make the ginger. Okay, it's ginger bashing time. So I'm gonna use the other side of my basher and we'll do the exact same thing. Pulverize it. There we go, 210. We'll add in 210 grams of brown sugar. Same thing as before. Okay, let's take a look at that. Same thing as before, just gonna massage this brown sugar all in. Oh my goodness, that smells really good. There we go. Now let's just stuff it in our jar. Okay, so again, a little higher than 2/3, but should settle. So we don't want too little. Might need a tiny bit more. Okay, I'm gonna clean up And we'll come back in a little bit to see how those have settled. So guys, there we go. We're gonna let this sit for 7 days and it's gonna ferment. It might bubble a little bit. And you just basically, I'm just gonna put this in a kind of cool, dark area like you would with another ferment. Doesn't have to be too cool, I don't think. And you can already kind of tell that the ginger is, well, I don't know if you can see, but the ginger is settling a little bit. And that's probably just gonna continue to settle. Same with the garlic. When we get to the 7-day mark, we will press it down and take out what we need to. But for right now, these are ready to go. We'll see you in 7 days. All right guys, it's been 7 days and we're gonna take a look at our fermenting herbs. We've got our ginger and our garlic, which are the ones that that are the fresh part of this, fresh herbs, I should say. You can actually see that there's a little bit of growth, a little bit of biology on both of them. Maybe not so much on the garlic, but on the ginger definitely. And that growth is completely fine because we're gonna sterilize it with the vodka. Otherwise, what we need to do actually is, so the garlic didn't sink down quite enough. So what I'm gonna do is press it down actually with my tamper / stirring stick. And I'm just gonna see where it kind of is. And then we'll just take some of this out. So we just want it to be equal with all the other ones. I'm gonna scoop some out, put it in the bucket here. And we're going for 2/3. That looks pretty good. So I'm gonna take out a little bit more. I wanna press it down, make sure all the air bubbles get out. Okay, that looks pretty equal. Just gonna rinse this stick off, and then we'll tamp down the ginger a little bit. I think the ginger is actually just gonna be fine, but I wanna make sure that it's kind of about equal. Yeah, I might actually take off a little bit. These look like these maybe evaporated a tiny bit, which is all right. I'm gonna take out a tiny bit, tamp it down. Okay, I think we're looking about equal across the board. It's a little bit hard to tell with these small of jars, and we don't have any measuring marks on the jars, but that's all right. So what we're gonna do is now we are going to fill our jars to close to the brim with vodka, and we're gonna give them each a little bit of a stir as well. And be really careful and not spill anything. I'm gonna fill this up so it's nearly to the top, and then I'll give it a stir while I've kind of got some headspace. A little bit of headspace, and I just want to incorporate this all in there. You might need to break this up a little bit, I guess. I'm just gonna do this really gently so that I don't spray any of the liquid out, and to get the vodka all incorporated. I'm trying to get the pieces off the bottom. I'm gonna add a touch more, just top it off. Okay, there's the first one. Now I'll move on to the garlic, cleaning off my stirring stick. Same sort of thing, just want to make sure that all the garlic is, all the vodka rather, is incorporated in the garlic mixture. Okay, add a little bit more. Top it off, and we'll go on to the next one. All right, the last ones will be a lot easier to mix up because it's all loose anyway. So here are the angelica, this is the cinnamon, this is the licorice. Nice little stir, top it off, call it good. Same thing for these guys. We are now ready to seal up the jars. And we're gonna wait for 2 weeks. We have to stir these every single day, and then we'll do our first extraction. Now, when I say seal the jars, you need to use airtight lids because the alcohol will evaporate quickly, and that'll just mess everything up. We're gonna put on these lids. Now, the lids that I have are metal, and the problem is that you don't actually want metal touching the mixture because it'll contaminate it. It can kind of react. I'm not going to be jostling the jars around a ton. So what I'm going to do, I've just got a very simple solution. I'm just going to wrap the top in plastic wrap. And you could just do that. You could just wrap the top in plastic wrap, put them somewhere, and then pull them out every day and stir them. But I'm gonna go ahead and put the lid on top. These are just some old peanut butter jars that we have. I'm gonna go ahead and give us a nice double wrap. Each one of these, here's a 1, 2, and I'll just seal that on. There you go. I'm gonna do this with all of these. And like I said, we're gonna come back in 2 weeks every day. Until then, I'm gonna take the lid off, give them just a quick stir, make sure that it's all incorporated still, and then we'll just put it back in the cupboard where I'm keeping it. Okay guys, it is extraction day. This is the first extraction. Here's how we're gonna do it. We've got our extraction vessel and we've got our correlated extraction collection vessel. This is where it's really important that you have things labeled. And the reason for that is because once you start putting your extractions in a collection container, you need to make sure that you're putting the same mixture into that container. My ginger goes into my ginger collection container. My licorice goes into my licorice collection container. There you go. So here's how we're gonna do this. Basically, we need a little mini colander. We're gonna take off the lid of our first extract. This is our ginger, like I said. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna strain out the entire thing. Trying to get all of it into the extraction collection vessel, or as much of it as possible. That's all right. Can't be perfect. Pretty good. I can get all this back in. And actually, you know what? This is a great time to mention that you should definitely use a funnel. And so I'm gonna go grab one. Got my funnel. Guys, I'm glad that happened because you needed to see the importance of needing a funnel. We've poured out all of our liquid into this extraction or this collection vessel. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna tamp this down, the ginger that is, and we're gonna pour back in liquid until it reaches the 2/3 mark. So that might be it. Get down and press this in. Already a little bug in there, gross. I'm gonna call that 2/3. So at this point, I'm gonna wait, I'm gonna do all of them, and then I'll show you what we do next. But you want these to be filled back up 2/3 of the way, leave the rest in the collection vessel. And I'm gonna go get my lids for these as well. Lid on, and now we'll go through and we'll do the rest. So next comes garlic. All right, well, we've got all of our extractions taken out for the first extraction, and now it's ready to add back in some more vodka. So we've got all of our vessels filled to approximately 2/3, approximately exactly, hopefully as close to exactly as possible. And the main thing is you want them to all be even, right? Just about the even amount, obviously across the board. I feel good with these as they are. And what I'm gonna do is just take my vodka and fill them back up to the top. This would be the remaining 1/3. Oops. All right, guys, there we go. All the jars are filled back up. I'm gonna give these each a little stir, and then we'll put them back to do their second extraction, and we'll be doing this again in 2 weeks. We're not gonna show every single extraction because it's the exact same process. I'm just gonna dump it all out into each one of these, the same ones that I originally, cinnamon to cinnamon, angelica to angelica. And every time there's obviously more is gonna accumulate in here, but you're just going to pour back in to fill these up to the 2/3 mark. Every time you strain the extraction into the collection vessel, it's going to be it should be the same amount across the board. And then when you pour it back in, they should all be the same. Top it off with vodka, rinse and repeat. So this was extraction number 1. We won't show you extractions 2, 3, and 4, but we'll be back for number 5, and you can see the finished product. All right, guys, here we are 10 weeks later. This is crazy. We finally made it, and this is the 5th and final extraction that we're gonna do of all of our herbs. Now we've done this 4 times total. The first time we showed you, and then we did 3 times every 2 weeks from that. So again, this is extraction 5, so 10 weeks later. And we're just going to show you the final extraction. We'll fill up all of these vessels to the very top, and then we will make our OHN from there. All right, we've got them all extracted, the garlic, ginger, cinnamon, licorice, and angelica herbs. So here's what the empty vessel looks like. We're done with these materials. I guess we can compost them, or I think you technically could cook with them if you wanted to, because they're totally preserved in the vodka. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with mine yet. At the very least, I'm gonna compost it or bokashi compost it, but the main thing that we want is the fully extracted, 5 times extracted components that are going to make OHN. So basically, these are all of our herbal nutrient extracts. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take 1 part of each, so equal parts of each one, mix it together, and that makes OHN. For angelica, for whatever reason, for OHN, there are 2 parts angelica, so we just take 1 from each. And the reason that you can probably, I think you may have gathered this by now, but the reason that you want these to be all exactly the equal amount is because if you add unequal amounts of one compared to the other, you're not adding equal parts, 1, 1, 1, 1, then it's not OHN. It's not legitimate. This is gonna make the actual OHN substance that we'll use. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix it up first in here. I'm gonna use a 1/3 cup, and I've got my 2 cups measuring cup, and then I'll put it into this jar. So yeah, maybe an unnecessary step there, but so I've got my garlic. It is filled to the brim, probably gonna spill a little bit on accident, but that's all right. And I'm just gonna do a 1/3. I'm trying to think if there's a way that I could do this. I'll just pour it. What I'm actually gonna do before I do that is I'm gonna, because there's a little bit of sediment at the bottom, I'm gonna just turn it upside down and mix-a-rooney. Just get all that goodness going. Totally change the color. It's crazy. Okay, just gotta pour confidently. So there you go, a little bit of spillage. I will add in just a tiny bit more, just a touch. And we're gonna call that 1/3 of a cup, because that's what it is. Next, we'll take our ginger. I'm gonna mix this up as well. Get the sediment at the bottom incorporated. Yep, spilled it a little bit, but that's all right. Okay. Is that 2/3? Yeah, call that 2/3, that's pretty good. Cinnamon. Mix this one up as well. This one is a bit sticky. Okay. Easy. Pfft. No problem there. Okay, licorice. Gotta mix this one up as well. a touch more. And Angelica 1. And Angelica 2. Now we'll take our storage jar and we'll just add this to that jar. Okay, there we go. So this is OHN, officially. First time I've ever held it. It's a good feeling. Pretty cool. This is one of the major ingredients in the Korean natural farming kind of line of amendments. It's used in making IMO 3 and 4. It's used as kind of, I guess, as a maintenance spray at the beginning of the season, during the season. Like I said, this is great for just plant health and whatnot, fending off diseases, and this pairs well with the Jadam wetting agent that we have a video on how to make. This combines with all of the other amendments, and this is also one of the most challenging ones to make because it just takes a long time. I think it's worth the journey. I would say you should definitely try this. Start now, because if you start now, then you'll have it ready for next season. Once you've mixed your OHN, all of your components together and made your OHN, this is shelf stable for basically a year, the next season that you're gonna be growing in. And so the idea is that you're gonna mix and make yourself enough that you'll use for that whole season. That being said, we've got a lot left over, which is great. We got plenty of this stuff. So these things, these jars, the Angelica, the cinnamon, licorice, all that is shelf stable for like indefinitely. And it actually gets better with age. So for OHN application and its uses in all of the different amendments, if you're gonna make IMO or if you're gonna apply it as a maintenance solution, you wanna dilute it 1 to 1,000 parts water. So 1 part OHN, 1,000 parts water. And as these ingredients age, the particle size will decrease. It essentially ups the potency. So after 2 years of these sitting, they're shelf stable indefinitely on their own. After 2 years, when you mix them together, that OHN that you make, you will dilute 1 to 1,500 parts water. 1 part OHN, 1,500 parts water. After 3 years, you dilute it 1 to 2,000. And then past that, you can scale it back even more if you want. Point is, a little goes a long way for this stuff, which is pretty cool. This took several months to make, almost 3 months, and it's gonna last us probably 3 years, I'm guessing. Once we start running out, we'll just make our next batch. This is a little bit costly just for the vodka alone. If you're doing it on our scale, we're trying to spend as little money as possible, but we had to buy 1.5 gallons of vodka. That's what we used. This is at a kind of the smallest scale that I would say is I'm comfortable making it at. Although you could probably make it at a smaller scale, just lower amounts of ingredients. That being said, buy your vodka at Costco, buy really cheap stuff. It doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be a clear alcohol to be able to do these extracts. This is also good apparently for livestock. You can mix this into their water at the same rate. You can dilute it 1 to 1,000 or just put a few drops in their watering systems. Good for gut health. It's a tincture, so it's kind of a healthy thing. And the main thing is that we use it on the plants, so it helps fight diseases, plant disease and whatnot. And it also just contains a lot of these micronutrients that we find in the herbs that we extracted them from. So guys, that is how you make OHN. Took us a while to make it. It was worth it. We've got some OHN now that'll last us the whole year probably, and we'll have videos on this in the future about how you can use it for sure. But I would highly encourage you to make this. Get all of your ingredients before you start the process so that you can just kind of roll with it, and make sure that you aren't going to be traveling a ton when you make this stuff because you have to be around to do the extraction. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more stuff like this in the future. Now, in addition to using OHN directly on plants, OHN is a critical ingredient that is used in conjunction with other ingredients like fermented plant juice, vinegar, seawater, you name it. And that is our beginner's guide to OHN. Guys, I hope that I made that clear for you, and I hope that it feels doable if it didn't before. Make sure that you grab our free PDF OHN reference sheet if you would find that helpful. And drop a comment with any questions, comments, suggestions for future videos. We love hearing those. And of course, if you haven't yet, please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. And otherwise, thanks for watching.